Miami Vice defined the 1980s with its stylish aesthetic, cutting-edge music, and gripping crime stories. But behind the glamour, many stars of the show left us under tragic circumstances, from sudden accidents to unforeseen illnesses. Let's revisit the journey of these legendary actors who left an indelible mark on fans and on television history. James Brown as Lou DeLong. James Joseph Brown was born on May 3, 1933, and stepped onto the Miami Vice set in 1987 when he was 54 years old, playing Lou DeLong, a minor character with a striking presence. But that role was merely the final flicker in the blazing legacy of a man who had dominated the stage for more than half a century. They called him Mr. Dynamite, the godfather of soul, the hardest-working man in show business. But another name fit just as well: a genius caught in a spiral of sin. James Brown grew up in hardship, abandoned by his mother, raised in a brothel, and convicted of theft when he was just 16. But from that wreckage, he rose, not just to make music, but to lead a movement. He was the father of funk, the creator of a rhythm that made the world move, the man who made even the Rolling Stones look tame on the TAMI show. Hits like I Got You, It's a man's world, and Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud became anthems, fists in the air from Black America, defying the era's prejudice. But behind the lights, Brown was a deeply conflicted man. He was addicted to drugs, especially PCP and cocaine, for many years. The highs brought violence, paranoia, and instability. He was arrested repeatedly for domestic abuse, gun possession, and a bizarre police chase he claimed was a setup. His marriages were disasters: beatings, divorces, rape allegations, custody battles, and even a possibly invalid union. His last wife, Tommy Ray Hying, was denied inheritance rights by the courts for failing to finalize her prior divorce before marrying Brown. Despite massive earnings from over 17 chart-topping hits and hundreds of live shows annually, James Brown died with his estate locked in endless lawsuits. His net worth was estimated around $100 million, including luxury properties, a fleet of cars, and valuable recording rights. But few could access it, as legal battles raged for 15 years between children, lovers, and self-proclaimed spouses. Brown died on Christmas Day 2006, at the age of 73, from heart failure due to pneumonia complications. But it wasn't until 2020 that the inheritance disputes began to settle. The man who once made all of America dance in rhythm ended his days alone in a private mausoleum. G. Gordon Liddy as Captain William, Mr. Real Estate Mayor. G. Gordon Liddy was born on November 30th, 1930. In 1985, when he was 55 years old, he made a surprise appearance on Miami Vice as Captain William, Mr. Real Estate Mayor, a powerful and manipulative real estate mogul, a cold-blooded villain who even drug lords had to fear. Though he appeared in only one episode, Liddy left a strong impression, thanks to the real-life aura of a man who had once lived outside the law. Because Liddy wasn't just an actor, he had been at the center of one of America's greatest political scandals, Watergate. Before stepping onto the screen, G. Gordon Liddy had been an FBI agent, then a lawyer, and eventually special counsel to President Richard Nixon. But it was Liddy who masterminded and oversaw the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate complex in 1972, an act that, when exposed, brought down the Nixon administration. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiracy, burglary, and obstruction of justice, though he served only 4.5 years before being granted clemency. Criticism head-on, famously declaring, "I have no regrets." After prison, G. Gordon Liddy reinvented himself in the world of entertainment. He wrote books, hosted a long-running radio show, and took on various TV roles, including his strikingly authentic villain in Miami Vice. With his reputation and commanding presence, Liddy became a media personality. He also made successful investments in real estate, stocks, and broadcast royalties, amassing a net worth of about $5 million by the end of his life. In his personal life, Litty married Frances Purcell in 1957, and they had 5 children together. While he often projected toughness, his memoir revealed that his prison years were a psychological hell, plunging him into deep depression and emotional strain. He was haunted by betrayal, especially by former White House counsel John Dean, who testified against him in Congress. In his final years, G. Gordon Liddy lived in seclusion at his home in Mount Vernon, Virginia. He passed away on March 30th, 2021, at the age of 90. The cause was Parkinson's disease. His funeral was held privately, closing the chapter on a man who once helped topple American democracy, only to later become a beloved TV villain. Gregory Sierra as Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez. Gregory Joseph Sierra was born on January 25, 1937, in the Spanish Harlem neighborhood of Manhattan. In 1984, when he was 47 years old, he appeared in the TV series Miami Vice as Lieutenant Lou Rodriguez, the first commander of the Anti-Narcotics Task Force. The role was expected to be foundational for the storyline, but was unexpectedly erased after only 4 episodes. According to multiple sources, the decision stemmed from quiet tensions between Sierra and the production team, along with his unwillingness to remain based in Miami. His role was later replaced by the character Martin Castillo, played by Edward James Olmos, who would go on to win an Emmy. What seemed like a small career detour turned into a difficult decline. Though he had once been a familiar face on American television in roles like Julio Fuentes on Sanford and Son and Chano Amengual on Barney Miller, Sierra gradually disappeared from leading roles after Miami Vice. He shifted to supporting parts, playing a drug kingpin in Deep Cover and a humorous Iraqi captain in Hot Shots, Part 2. Despite his range, the career momentum faded. Behind the scenes was a different Gregory Sierra. Lonely, sorrowful, and worn down by life. Abandoned by his parents as a child, he was raised by his aunt. His personal life was filled with fractures. His first marriage to Eileen DeFelita ended quickly, and his second wife, Susan Pollock, died by suicide just 2 years after their wedding. The shock sent Sierra into long-term depression, and he became increasingly reclusive, distancing himself from both friends and family. Gregory Sierra passed away on January 4, 2021, at the age of 83, after a prolonged battle with stomach and liver cancer. He died quietly in Laguna Woods, California. His wife at the time, Helene Tabor, was the only one by his bedside. His net worth at the end of his life was estimated at around $2 million, a modest sum given a long and storied career. Tony Hendra as Gordon Wiggins. Tony Hendra was born on July 10, 1941, in Hertfordshire, England. At age 46, he appeared in Miami Vice in 1987 as Gordon Wiggins, a supporting character layered with nuance, reflecting the biting satire that defined Hendra's acting style. However, behind the success was a chain of dark tragedies that even he could not control. Hendra's life was marked by spirals and a devastating scandal. After a bitter divorce from his first wife, Judith Christmas, the mother of his 2 daughters, he lived in New York with his second wife, Carla, and their 3 children. But that peace was only surface deep. In 2004, just as his memoir Father Joe topped bestseller lists with claims of spiritual salvation, his youngest daughter, Jessica Hendra, publicly accused him of sexually abusing her as a child. Though Tony vehemently denied the allegations, corroboration from Jessica's mother, close friends, and 2 therapists caused his public image to collapse. Tony Hendra also battled for decades with severe depression and alcoholism. Former associates at Lampoon and Spy magazine gradually distanced themselves. After 2005, he virtually disappeared from the public eye. No more stage, no more screen. In his final years, he lived mostly off royalties from books, past roles, and intellectual property. His total net worth was estimated at around $2 million, including a modest apartment and the creative assets he once held dear. Tony Hendra passed away on March 4, 2021, at the age of 79, after a long struggle with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. He died quietly, leaving behind a career once radiant but later tarnished, a life once full of laughter, ending in tears and doubt. Dennis Farina as Albert Lombard. Dennis Farina, born on February 29, 1944, was one of Hollywood's rare cases, a real-life former Chicago police detective who stepped onto the screen. From age 40 to 44, he appeared in Miami Vice as Albert Lombard, a Miami mafia boss who was both charismatic and dangerous, leaving a strong impression across 3 episodes. Yet the silver screen's glow couldn't hide the cracks in his real life. Known for his hot temper, Farina frequently clashed on set and was considered difficult to control. His career stalled at times due to impulsive behavior, most notably in 2008, when he was arrested for carrying a loaded handgun through LAX airport security. His claim that he forgot about the weapon sparked rumors of early cognitive decline. Though the case ended with 2 years of probation, his reputation never fully recovered. Still, major directors like Michael Mann, Steven Spielberg, and Guy Ritchie continued to cast him, helping him amass a net worth of around $8 million from roles in Law and Order, Get Shorty, Snatch, and Real Estate in both Beverly Hills and Chicago. In his personal life, Farina had a decade-long marriage to Patricia Farina and 3 sons. After the divorce, his relationship with his children became strained. One son accused him of emotional neglect and being consumed by ambition. Farina spent his later years with longtime partner Mary Ann Cahill, splitting time between Chicago and Scottsdale, Arizona. Beneath the rugged charm, however, was a man hardened by loneliness, too tough to show vulnerability. On July 22, 2013, Dennis Farina died of a pulmonary embolism at age 69. His funeral was held quietly at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Illinois. He departed the way he lived, abruptly, unapologetically, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable roles and a life even Hollywood couldn't script into something softer. John Matusac as Lasco. John Matusac, the gentle giant who once conquered both the NFL and Hollywood, was born on October 25, 1950. At age 37, he appeared in Miami Vice as Lasco, a violent, enigmatic figure whose menacing energy mirrored Matusac's real-life presence. Towering at 6 feet 8 inches, he was the go-to actor for misunderstood monsters and unpredictable brutes. Yet behind that towering frame was a lifetime of tragedy, from childhood sorrow to a sudden death just 1 year after his appearance. Born into a family where 3 siblings had cystic fibrosis, 2 of whom died young, Matusac grew up haunted by survivor's guilt. Determined to become invincible, he dominated the NFL, winning 2 Super Bowls with the Oakland Raiders and becoming a symbol of American physical prowess. But the glory was a mask. In his memoir, Cruisin' with the Twos, he confessed to struggles with alcohol, drugs, and a deep longing for love he never received as a child. After retiring from football, he transitioned into acting with breakout roles like Sloth in The Goonies, 1985, but off-camera, his life spiraled. Bar fights, scandalous affairs, including one with a married actress that led to threats and lawsuits, derailed his career. Erratic behavior, uncontrollable rage, and substance abuse led to his downfall. Despite earning millions from sports and film, he squandered it all. His net worth at death was under $1 million, not enough to cover his mounting debts. John Matusac died on June 17, 1989, at age 38, just days before what would have been his late father's birthday. The cause of death was heart failure due to an enlarged heart, combined with acute toxicity from the painkiller Darvocet, which contains propoxyphene. Cocaine was also found in his system. His sudden, solitary, and heartbreaking death shook Hollywood. A man who had spent his life craving love and acceptance was finally remembered, but only after fading into silence, a fallen giant under the spotlight no one could save. Hying S. Singore as Inspector Nguyen Vantron. Hying S. Singore, born on March 22, 1940, was a Cambodian obstetrician no one expected to become a Hollywood star. At age 47, he appeared in Miami Vice in 1987 as Inspector Nguyen Vantron, a character marked by war trauma and fractured loyalty. The pain in his eyes on screen echoed the brutal truth of his own past. Before entering film, Singore was a doctor in Phnom Penh. But when the Khmer Rouge seized power in 1975, he had to hide every sign of his education to survive. His greatest tragedy came in 1978, when his pregnant wife, Chiang Mai-Hoi, suffered a fatal complication. Though Singore could have saved her using his medical knowledge, revealing it would have meant death for them both, he chose silence and held her as she and their unborn child died in his arms. That loss became the emotional fire behind his performance as Dith Pran in The Killing Fields, 1984, which earned him an Oscar and exposed the horrors of Cambodia to the world. But even the Oscar spotlight couldn't erase his loneliness in America. Singore never remarried and lived quietly in Los Angeles, always wearing a locket with his wife's photo. Though offered many roles, he was often typecast as a war victim. He donated most of his estimated $1 million in film royalties and earnings to humanitarian work in Cambodia, funding schools, woodshops, and refugee support. On February 25, 1996, Hying S. Singore was shot and killed outside his home in Los Angeles' Chinatown at age 55. The press called it a robbery, but many believed it was an assassination. He had reportedly refused to surrender the locket containing his wife's photo. The locket was never found. Some believe the Khmer Rouge orchestrated the hit. 3 suspects were convicted, but public suspicion has never faded. Singore was buried at Rose Hills Memorial Park in California, a resting place for those not just killed by bullets, but by the world's indifference. The stars of Miami Vice left behind unforgettable legacies, even as their lives unfolded in tragedy and shock. Which of these legendary actors do you remember most fondly? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this tribute to honor their memory.